welcome to the Contingency Plan Podcast. My name is Jedi Master David, and with me as always is Darth Austin.
Hello, everyone.
You know, look, we are so close to the Andor series. So close.
So close. Come closely.
It's crazy. It's crazy how close we are to getting new Star Wars content. And we're just so excited about it, aren't we?
I mean, I legitimately am a lot more excited than you're portraying it.
No, I know. I like to be a downer. No, I'm excited. I'm actually very excited for Andor. I'm kind of happy that we are getting new content. Because boy, oh boy, is not all of it, but most of the new content that's just being put out today, like most of the new shows that are like new right now, God, they're getting ripped apart.
Yeah. Well, are you referring to just Star Wars or kind of everything in general?
No, everything in general, because we've got so the Game of Thrones, the what is it called?
House of Dragon.
House of Dragon. So that I've heard good things about. I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah, I mean, general reception to that's pretty good. I think it's a pretty good show so far.
Which is relatively hilarious to me because so Matt Smith, he's Daemon Targaryen, right?
Yes.
So Matt Smith also was in that Morbius movie. And I remember reading something about how the director of that movie said that Matt Smith was a terrible actor or couldn't act or acted bad or something like that. Like he wasn't good in that movie, which is hilarious because I don't know if he is not my favorite Doctor Who, but he was really great in Doctor Who. And then I hear nothing but accolades coming from this new House of the Dragon show. So that's
I personally think he plays a really good psychopath, and
yeah.
I mean, the blonde wig is extremely, extremely distracting. It's terrible on him.
There are not very many people.
Terrible on everyone.
Yeah, there are not too many people who can do
bad.
bleach blonde. Period.
Yeah, but I think his acting is on point with any of our favorites from the original series. I mean, I would compare him to, I'd kind of put him up there, rank him like with Littlefinger.
Okay.
And yeah, I've been nothing but impressed.
Good.
Other than that show, though, everything else is kind of garbage right now. Just a hot mess.
Well, so you have She-Hulk, which
I haven't heard anything good about that.
Well, and I'm not interested in Marvel really right now in general, and it's nothing about anything. I just don't really care. They killed off Iron Man, and I'm good. I'll watch Spider-Man with Tom Holland maybe. But She-Hulk, legitimately, they had her twerking in an episode apparently.
Isn't it with like a rapper?
Yeah, I think it's Megan Thee Stallion
or something. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like...
Which is hilarious in concept, but I don't want to watch it.
No, I'm good. And then, so I have watched 2 episodes of the Amazon Prime Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power show.
Yeah, so how is it?
So, I'll say this. I think that the first 2 episodes are... I think they're good. I think they're really good if you take them for what they are. Like the show wasn't made for people who've read like all the books and the Silmarillion and all that. It's not really for that. But if you just take it for what it is, it's actually a really entertaining show. The new episodes I think come out on Fridays. So episode 3 should be out today, I think. But like I watched the first 2 episodes. Me and a girlfriend sat down and watched them, and it was like, oh yeah, this is pretty good. But you have a mad obsessive Galadriel who is a warrior, which is a million miles away from what she was in Lord of the Rings, which, to be fair, they have very long lives. And I can kind of understand that you could change, but it was just such a stark difference.
I definitely felt like Galadriel was going to make or break the show in a way. I mean, I don't know if necessarily they're centering around the character, but...
They are. Quite a bit.
They are.
Yeah, and they
definitely
have
a character worth centering around.
Well, I mean, I like Galadriel. I mean, she's a good character. I personally, I would have rather maybe had other. I don't know too much about the Second Age. It's supposed to be Second Age. I don't know too much about all the characters that we would necessarily see, and I think we've only scratched the surface in the first 2 episodes. But it was a lot of Galadriel. We did have a younger Elrond, which I think is interesting, and his dealings with Prince Durin of the dwarves, who I think was pretty good. I like the stuff with the dwarves, and another big sticking point is they cast. I don't hold on. Let me see if I can come up with her name. Rings of Power cast, perhaps. Oh my goodness. Sometimes it's like,
Not necessarily
do you know?
a very popular character.
No,
it's
like,
right away.
I just typed in the wrong thing. It's like, do you know how to Google? So Sophia Nomvedi, who plays basically dwarven, essentially by proxy princess because she's married to Durin, Disa. And I know some people are in a bit of an uproar about that, and I see her face on a lot of the thumbnails, but I actually found the character so far like really enduring. She's like really nice. She's like just a really nice dwarven, person in the show, and it's like, okay, well that's not a huge problem. There was one part. So we have there's like 3 or 4 separate storylines in that show. It's kind of crazy. We have one storyline that follows, the actor's name is Ishmael Cruz Cordova, who plays an elf, Arondir. And he has this sort of like love interest with just a human, in the village that he protects, that they're actually pulling away from, because the whole thing is that they've defeated Morgoth and they've driven Sauron, who is Morgoth's lieutenant, away, and they think he's destroyed, but he's clearly not. Obviously, we know that. So the elves are actually pulling back from all the far reaches and everything. They're basically just pulling back to their lands,
back to their kingdoms. Yeah.
And so Arondir is kind of reluctant because he's got this little girlfriend, Bronwyn, who has a kid. And I looked at her, and Bronwyn is played by Nazanin Bandari. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. She looks way too modern. Like, they showed her and I was like, okay, who entered the cosplay contest? I don't know what it was. It's like, I'm not trying to dog her or anything, but I was like, she does not look natural to this era for some reason. She's very pretty.
Like too much makeup and clean cut, or
you just have to see
perfect eyebrows and middler.
Yeah, that's kind of like manicured in some way.
Yeah.
Not terrible or anything. It's just different than what you would expect. But she's like an apothecary or something.
Okay. So I'm sure I'm going to get destroyed in the comments for this, but I get really hazy on timelines with Lord of the Rings. Would this like have Celebrimbor in it?
Correct.
Like, yes. Would it be the right timeline? Is he in it, or has he not been revealed yet? Or
let me see. So Celebrimbor, yes. So we do meet Celebrimbor, and effectively at this point, Celebrimbor is working with Elrond to create like the Forge of all Forges.
Okay.
So yes, he's in it. Gilgalad's in it. A couple of others. But I'd have to really look through all this stuff. But
honestly, just having him in the show would make me want to watch it. He's always been, even though he's not necessarily the most interesting character, I always just thought he was a pretty cool character. Obviously, he's got a big part to play in the story. So
yeah.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool. I'll definitely have to check that out.
And then kind of the other part of this is we do have hobbits or something like hobbits, and we follow a character
up hobbits so quickly.
Well, we
So
follow
easily.
we mainly follow a character. Her name is Nori, and what looks to be Gandalf, who has like plummeted like a literal meteor to Earth. He does make the F symbol. That's Gandalf's symbol. But he can't talk right now. Like he can talk to animals and stuff, like he talks to fireflies, but he can't like speak the tongue of man.
Who did they cast?
To be honest, I don't really remember. I don't remember. But
Did they at least like make him look similar to an extent and
kind of
height and whatnot?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, I'm not mad at it. But again, it might not be Gandalf. And they showed several shots of a meteor, and the theory is that it's actually all the wizards coming down, or the what is it there? The sorry, or what are they called? It's not sorry. Sure. Or maybe let me look that up. And see what he would be, because they have basically like tier rankings,
right?
So Gandalf the Grey, later Gandalf the White. Original name is Lord Olorin, Istar. So he's a part of the Istar. And let me just bump back here. Yeah. Anyway, I'm not too sure, but it also looks like from the cast list we do have a young Isildur, which is interesting.
Ooh. Okay.
I think what some people's complaint right now is, for the lore heavy folks, is that I don't believe that the Istar came to Middle Earth in the Second Age. So there's maybe a little bit of muddling there, but I'm not unhappy about the show. Like, I don't think that it's terrible. Some of the pacing could be better.
Well, isn't it considered to be an adaptation anyway? I mean, it's not really adding to the canon.
Yeah, but
right?
you know how people get. But of course, you could look at Peter Jackson's interpretation of not only the Lord of the Rings, but then probably more so in the Hobbit, and things that he did differently. The female elf who had this sort of love story with one of the dwarves, she wasn't a real character in the books. They made her up for the movie. So yeah, there's a little bit of that back and forth, kind of like these aren't real and blah blah blah. So it is what it is. Yeah, you should watch it though, and then maybe we can speak on it next week or whatever if you have the time.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I'd like to hear your opinion on it. But I kind of enjoyed myself. I sort of enjoyed everything. Galadriel's played by I think it's Morfydd Clark. It's Morfydd.
Yeah, I did see a picture of that, and she definitely looks like the original actress, so I was pretty impressed by that. It seems like they're putting effort into the aesthetics of each character, which is extremely important, I think, for anything related to Lord of the Rings.
Well, and then quick connection here, though. Robert Armayo, who plays Elrond, was young Ned Stark in the flashbacks in Game of Thrones.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. That's cool.
Yeah. So at any rate, I feel like it's an interesting show. Yes, it's not all original, and
I would definitely go into it expecting it to be, heavily adapted. Yeah, I mean, that's what I expect from really any TV show at this point, other than maybe the Star Wars shows. They're trying to be a little more true to lore, but most shows just don't do that, honestly.
Yeah, but it's just that you have the crowds. You have one crowd that says representation is very, very important and you have to have it. And then you have the other crowd that says, well, but if you actually go by the writings, elves are white.
Right.
You know, I mean, there's really
Well,
not
I
any
mean, I hate to
latitude
say it,
because
but,
they're
like,
angels, and that's how they
Yeah.
described him. And Tolkien was religious.
Yeah. And I mean, to be honest, when you talk about different races of characters like that, going off anything based off of, like, you know, whatever you want to say, D&D, Skyrim, Lord of the Rings, all that stuff, typically elves would have multiple different subsets of elf. You know, you'd have a wood elf that would be a little more dark skin. You had dark elf
Yeah.
that would be literally ashen or black skin. You'd have your general elf would be white. I mean, it's not, I don't find that to be racist. It's just a way to describe a character in a way. I mean,
It's all hard though, you know, because again, the two camps are just so vocal either way. Personally, I just want to see, can you act? Is the story good? I
Yeah.
wouldn't call it a masterpiece, but I would say that it is entertaining so far. And
well,
while
we really already had the masterpiece in the trilogy. I don't expect,
yeah.
I don't expect them to ever top that. And I really it'd be kind of pathetic for them to try.
I agree.
Honestly.
But like I heard some weird stuff. Like I heard and saw a few people like, "Oh, you can't make Elrond black." It's like, well, they didn't. What are you talking about? So I don't know. It's just there is a there are the only thing that gets a little confusing to me is with the hobbits, and it seems like one, they're nomadic. So they're not. They don't stay in, like, there's
They
no
don't, like, set up
Hobbiton
their little
possibly
villages.
right now. Yeah. And they hide. They hide from people. Like I don't remember if it was the first scene in the first episode, but there were two hunters with these giant horns on their backs, and when they went past, then the village kind of comes to life and they're moving around. But you know, there are a lot of the family units are just mixed all over the place, and it became a little bit. It's like, so is everybody like everybody's aunt, uncle, cousin, grandpa thing? I was a
So
little.
they made them nomadic Smurfs, basically.
Yeah, that'd be funny. But there are a couple of black characters to play hobbits. Lemmy Henry, who plays Sadok Burrows. Geez, I'm not quite sure which. Sarah. Ooh, that's a name. Zwangobani. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. I'm not sure if the Z is supposed to be silent or pronounced, but she plays Marigold Brandyfoot. And there are a couple of other ones, and I think Marigold might have been what looked like to be the mother of Nori, but they're there's like no resemblance
Distinct
at all.
people. Yeah.
So, you know, I would be interested to hear more on what their vision was for the hobbits, because it just seems like to me, if I had to look at it from a front face, maybe it's just more of everybody in the communities, kind of like if you're older, your mom, dad, aunt, uncle, depending on your closeness or whatever, and maybe it's not so much like family units
Also
or
be
something.
like age based too, kind of.
I'm not sure. I would like to.
Like you hit a certain age, you're just like most people's uncle.
Yeah.
Depending on your relationship with them.
Yeah, that could
I
be.
don't feel like that's really a hobbit trait. I mean, I don't know a whole lot about hobbits, to be honest, but
Yeah, I'm not sure. I would have to like look a little bit further in that, and maybe they'll distinguish that throughout the show. But yeah, the hobbits were interesting. The Sadok Burrows, he has like a prophecy book, and like a lot of what he's seeing is coming true, which is kind of interesting. So it's an interesting show. I think it's worth the watch.
it'd be kind of cool to see if it got popular enough that maybe they would come out with a kind of like a director's interview type episode like Star Wars has been doing with their shows, maybe to explain things like that a little better and kind of go through the casting choices and
Yeah.
you know, everyone's vision on it.
Well,
I think that'd be kind of cool for something like this that would be so lore heavy.
yeah. Well, let's just put it this way. That probably wouldn't go over very well because the ratings are not good necessarily. Like right now, so Rotten Tomatoes, 50% of the audience, 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 50% 84% for critics, 39% audience score.
Wow.
I mean that, and listen to this. So for the critics, 288 reviews, which is typical. There's not a lot of critics, but 23,071 ratings.
Wow.
For the audience.
That is substantial.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I honest to God don't know. And I gotta say, I'm not sure what the heck Rotten Tomatoes is doing with their scoring and everything. Cause like there are some shows you look in here and like they'll just have the score, but they won't show you like how many votes and everything are for what. Rotten Tomatoes is kind of garbage if I'm being honest. But like
That's odd they don't filter it that way.
Yeah. I mean, IMDb has it at a 6.7 out of 10. Out of, get this, 131,000 votes on IMDb.
No.
131,000 votes on IMDb.
How many episodes are we in?
Two. Well, technically the third episode dropped today. And here's the other thing. Here's the other thing too, though. And this is IMDb. Episodes 1 and 2 are holding at a 7.3. Respectively, 7.3. So some of that
was not well received.
You can just rate the season and not the episode.
Oh, okay.
On IMDb. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see as we go around. Whatever this is that comes up on Google is a 3.2, which I presume is out of 5 out of 12,546 ratings. So it's such a mixed bag. The critics really pumped it up, but the audiences are not necessarily being kind.
Well, I think a critic isn't going to be so much of a lore Nazi as any general fan would be, so that makes a lot of sense. And that kind of tells you what the issue is with the show.
Yeah.
One thing I will say about that and House of Dragon and all that is one thing that you and I will appreciate, we're finally starting to get back to weekly drops.
I know. It's so nice.
Which it's about time that people got tired of that. Although I will say, House of Dragon has the worst drop possible. It's 9 o'clock on Sundays.
AM or PM?
PM.
Oh,
it's
that's
9 p.m.
dumb.
on a Sunday.
That's a California thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry. Call me old. On Sunday, I want to get the best sleep possible to start my work week. So I'm not interested in staying up till like 10:30 to watch that.
That's crazy, man. That's crazy.
Yeah. But I don't really remember what Game of Thrones drop schedule was, but I feel like it was during the week. Or maybe Friday.
Yeah, I can't remember. I do feel that it was more reasonable at the time, but I could be wrong. It's actually been some time.
It has. But yeah, so nice to see getting back to some normal schedules for shows. Obviously, we're getting the same with Andor. And
after we get a 3 episode, what is it? How many episodes are we getting? It's 3 episode drop, right?
And then 3 episode drop, and then 9 consecutive weeks of 1 episode.
Yeah, I can't stand that. Well, because they pushed it back the same way they did with Kenobi. I don't like that they do that. It's like, just put it out. Like, it's already done.
Yeah, don't
put it out.
It kind of defeats the purpose. Like, oh, this is making up for us being 3 weeks late, so we're going to give you 3 episodes. No.
Right.
No, that is not what I want.
Yep. It's a little annoying.
Don't give me a quarter of it all at once.
Very true.
I will say one thing. This book, I won't really talk about how I feel about it right away, but it kind of bums me out that we read this book and then not really any of it will pertain to Andor. Realistically, like none of it will. Mm-hmm. It's a good tie-in. It makes you think of Rogue One, obviously, but it just bums me out that we don't have anything else on Jyn or Galen, because they are obviously not Jyn in this book, but Galen is a really interesting character.
Galen is a very interesting character.
Really makes you wonder what could have happened if we had done a TV show based around him, basically through the lens of what we read in this book.
Yeah, that would have been fascinating. Absolutely.
Not to discredit Andor, but could have been something we had.
Yeah, very true. Well, anyway, that was about 25 minutes of just random talking. So let's go ahead and make it a little bit longer. So how's your week been?
That's weird. I can actually talk about more of my week. I really don't have a lot more to talk about because we're further into the week. I've just been doing extremely boring slog work on school throughout this week, but Saturday was good. I got to go to Swappers Day. Never actually been, so that was a interesting experience.
Yeah. Cool.
Ended up buying a nice cutting board and a 22 for the boy for his birthday. Got a really good deal on that. Already buying some accessories. So only problem was we spent 2.5 hours in our car getting in and out.
Yeah, it
hour
is.
and 45 minutes just to get out of there. They had a bunch of 15-year-olds directing traffic, and they weren't really well trained, so that was a bit frustrating. It kind of messed up our plans for our anniversary. We had a few things planned, but it was okay. It was still a fun time.
Yeah, the traffic in and out of there can definitely be pretty nuts. No doubt about that.
Yeah, not a whole lot other than that.
Okay.
Didn't really watch a Buckeyes game or do anything super exciting over the weekend. So,
okay. Yeah, I mainly my weekend, which was, sort of extended out with time off, was concerned with getting the house ready, which came down to the wire. It was frustrating. It was not fun. But it is done now and should be listed this weekend.
Oh, so you postponed listing it. Okay.
No, I didn't post.
I thought maybe...
No, I didn't postpone listing it. This weekend was to actually finish all the projects and stuff and get it cleared out. So, and then today the photographer should have been down to take pictures. And
okay, I got that mixed up. I thought that was last Friday.
No. Yeah, this Friday. So it's on schedule, but it took a lot, and it's pretty crazy. So that took a lot out of us. Obviously, without Ashley, it wouldn't have really came off as well. She did a lot, helped out a lot, so that was nice.
Cool.
And it was her birthday this weekend too, so I rewarded all of her stuff with just work. But we actually went.
Wonderful gift.
Well, we went out on Sunday. We went to Hyde Park downtown, which is, I guess, considered either the number 1 or number 2 steakhouse in Columbus. Had a fantastic meal. I got it was the Jack Nicholas steak. I don't remember. It had this sauce on it. It was I don't remember. I'd have to look it up, but it was fantastic. It was a strip, really good strip, with the sauce and little red peppercorns and stuff. It was amazing. She got a filet and lobster tail, which, you eat fillets and you're like, oh, okay, this was a filet. It was a tender, just excellent filet. Lobster was good. We got this potatoes au gratin thing, which was almost 2 inches high, and it looked like a little mini lasagna. It was great, and some asparagus, and we had a few cocktails. But it was a very good dinner. Not cheap, but a very good.
Well, if it was the best, I wouldn't expect it to be cheap, but that's fine.
No, and and it was crazy. It was crazy down there because. The day before, obviously, a state game. But when we went down there Sunday, there was some other thing going down around the area. So I actually got the truck valet parked for $9. So I didn't have to deal with it. So I was cool with that.
Honestly, what's your time worth at that point? Do you really want to walk in a iffy area just to find a decent parking spot?
Yeah, and there was no parking whatsoever. It was crazy. But yeah, so did that, and then realistically, just work throughout the week, and then this weekend, because Ashley also got Ohio State tickets, home tickets through work, through her work. She sold the Notre Dame tickets. I wasn't, we had stuff to do, And we're selling the Michigan tickets because I'm not interested in that atmosphere.
That would be a madhouse.
Yeah, but we are going to see the Arkansas game tomorrow, and
That'll
then
be fun. Cool.
probably not the next week, which is Toledo, but definitely going for the Wisconsin game.
Yeah, that'll definitely be the best. That'll probably be the highlight, I'd imagine, of the season.
I would say so. But so yeah, I'll be down there for the noon game, and then we're probably gonna jump to Brewdog and just have a bit of a fun weekend.
Nice. Speaking of Brewdog, not particularly Brewdog, but just IPAs and whatnot. Have you tried Heart State?
I have not.
Okay. I don't know if they're new, but they kind of have been popping up at local restaurants on tap and whatnot. We kind of made up for being in the car for almost 3 hours by having a really nice dinner. We went to Kenyon Inn, and I got a nice roasted duck with a fig sauce, nice good crust on it, and some good veggies. But I tried a Heart State IPA and a Heart State Shandy, and they're really good. Highly recommend trying it out sometime. Not sure who sells them.
Okay.
I know it's a local, but I don't know who sells them. Obviously, there's a couple places near me that stock pretty much everything, but you might have to go to like Meyer or something near you to
Looks
find
like
it.
It's in Gahanna.
Gahanna? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, looks like they're out
Wonder
of
if it would have
Gahanna,
the same setup as Brewdog. Maybe be worth checking out.
It might, yeah, it might. I'll have to look into that. Maybe, maybe sometime. That'd be cool. So yeah, very, very nice, very nice. Yeah, always good to get a nice dinner in there for sure. So
Yeah,
we also got Browns coming up. Really excited about that, huh?
yeah. I do want to go again this year. We should plan that out. We're dragging Dad along this time.
He will
kicking and screaming.
He'll still not come. Yeah, we do. We need to. Yeah, we'll talk about that later for sure. But so after about a half hour of no Star Wars, you ready to talk some Star Wars?
No, I'm ready to talk about. Let's see. We already covered Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones. You want to do some Star Trek now?
Well, sure. Star Trek Day was yesterday.
No, it wasn't. I'll be honest. This isn't like me saying I never wanted to be a fan or anything. I just legitimately never took the time to dive into it. I'm not one of those Star Wars fans that thinks that Trek is trash, but I am considering plunging into Star Trek. I just don't know how much time I can devote to it.
Personally, I think that you would like Deep Space Nine.
Okay.
I think you would like Deep Space Nine. Like, Next Gen is fantastic. Obviously, like, the original series has its charm. I was never a big fan of Voyager, but I know that there are a lot of people who really like Voyager. Enterprise was a good show. I enjoyed Enterprise. And then obviously now there's like Discovery, which I can't really recommend all that much. There's the cartoons, and then Strange New Worlds is really good. The first season, and we're going into the second season. But Deep Space Nine was fun because, we're talking about the early mid-90s, and, they had, because I never remember names. Avery Brooks, who played Ben Sisko, starts off, he's a commander. They send him out to the space station. Really troubled guy. His wife was killed when the Borg attacked, and he's got a young son, and he's shipped off to this station in the middle of nowhere to command it. Eventually he rises through the ranks, and he's very important. But they tackle a lot of social issues very tastefully, and I think Avery Brooks is an amazing actor. His inflection is hilarious sometimes. There's one particular scene where he's basically recording a personal log, trying to kind of justify what happens in war. And he sort of breaks the fourth wall in a way at one point. He just kind of looks directly into the camera, and he's basically debating if he wants to delete this log or not. Yeah. And this is just where his inflection comes up, because it's almost Kirk-esque in a way. And he's like,
right,
I can live with it. I can live with it. and he's got such a deep, really deep, great voice, but they tackle a lot of just social issues really, really well. It's a very diverse cast of a lot of different cool characters and everything, and they bring Worf in from Next Gen, and it's a very cool show, and it's a lot of seasons too, so you can really just span.
Would that be a decent jumping off point? You wouldn't be like lost with the lore and everything?
To be honest, you could start any of the series, and it's all its own kind of bubble within everything. If you really just wanted to start off, though, I mean, Next Gen is a great place too, but I just think you would like DS9. Probably out of all of them, I think you'd like that one the best.
Yeah, maybe I'll get an episode of that, an episode of Rings of Power in before the next episode, so we can discuss that a bit.
There you go. And it does take a little bit of time to get it running. I mean, I would say it really hits its stride kind of mid season 1 and then season 2 on. It's just it's really good television. So
right on. Well, now we should probably go ahead and talk about Star Wars.
Yeah. So our actual subject today is the book Catalyst, which is a Rogue One tie-in novel, published on November 15th, 2016. So a day after my birthday. And this was effectively to kind of fill in some gaps for a movie that everybody really seemed to like, give a little bit more detail of Galen and Lyra Urso and their young child, Jyn Urso. We get to hear a little bit more of Orson Krennic and Tarkin as well. Tarkin makes an appearance in this book. And we get to see a little bit of the earliest stages of the rebellion, very fledgling.
Little still happy and hopeful Saul Guerrero.
Yeah, that's interesting too. And I think one of the cool things is like literally this book is right as the Clone Wars are kind of getting towards the end, and how as a citizen of the former Republic and then Empire, how you could just say it's not that bad. You know what I mean? It's like there were lines in the book where, I hope the Emperor, just like doesn't take such a strong hand on stuff. It's like, and that would have probably been how people would think, because it's like, well, look, we remember
so
Palps,
filtered,
But the thing is they remember Palpatine as being this charismatic guy, rose through the ranks, Naboo, that whole tragedy, the whole blockade of Naboo and everything, and then the former Queen and Senator Padme, she dies at the end of Empire or Revenge of Episode 3,
Revenge of
the Sith. I started to say it and I was like, bleh. And so, like, you can have sympathy for Palpatine as an average person, because, like, he's not a bad guy. You learn over time he is a bad guy. But this is, like, very early on.
Yeah, I found it kind of interesting how, they transitioned from the era, essentially, kind of right after Order 66 without really mentioning that all that much, kind of making it subtle for once.
Yep.
Which, not that Order 66 isn't amazing to talk about, but it's kind of nice to not have it as a focal point. And when they bring up the Jedi, instead of obsessing about it, they basically just wave it off as, well, come on, you saw what they did to Palpatine, and it's Palpatine, so you can't side with them.
Yes, and you do. You really do see how his plan was really so perfect. You got to see how his plan really worked out on the masses. And if you're going to control anything, you have to control the masses. And he did. He did in the early stages, and I think that that's an important thing to bring up.
Yeah, and it's also really cool to kind of see the evil seeds being sowed even in the Age of the Republic, obviously dealing with Masamita, Orson Krennic, and Tarkin being so ruthless. A lot of people kind of just take it as, the Republic was an amazing thing, and then just divide that to split that from the Empire. It's like, they went bad all at once. Like, no, there was actually a lot of laziness and complacency within both the Senate
Yep.
and the military that allowed forces like Tarkin, Orson Krennic, Mas Amedda to weasel their way in with little effort put into disguising how vile they really were and get a foothold that ultimately almost caused as much destruction as both Vader and Palpatine did.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the Imperial War Machine did more damage overall because it effectively rewarded ambitious people, ambitious, heartless people, and the evil that you can do if you're ambitious enough can be fairly evident. I mean, just look at Orson Krennic. But we kind of start our story with Galen and Lyra, who are on Volt. Basically, he's just a researcher for I actually pulled this up. Zerpin Industries. Who
totally sounds like something from like Ratchet and Clank.
It really does. Now, Zerpin kind of is not really like overly described here, but essentially they're selling to both sides. Very typical, and
Volt is definitely a flip. I guess you could compare it to like a flip state.
Yeah.
It's just the whole planet just switches sides on a whim, and they even have characters comments like, yeah, just wait it out.
Yeah.
They'll switch sides again, and then you'll be fine.
Exactly. So we really jump in here where Galen and Lyra are captured by the government, the new government of this planet, who have basically taken separatist assurances that everything's going to be cool. And they're not tortured, they're separated, but they're not mistreated necessarily. The planet actually kind of likes them, the people within there. They don't hate them, and even giving them over to the Empire, or excuse me, the Separatists, really wasn't what they wanted to do. And then we sort of get, Orson Krennic coming through and playing the rescue, and we learn that Orson Krennic and Galen Erso were in, what was it, the Futures program?
The Future Stars of the Republic or something along those lines.
So they've been friends for a number of years, and Lyra never understood why, but I think it's because they're so opposite.
Yeah. Yeah, they kind of talk about almost a brotherly bond of protection. I mean, Orson actually really defended and protected Galen in his younger years when he was more unsure of himself, a little more meek and easily pushed around.
Yep.
It's kind of sad in a way because Orson didn't necessarily start out as a bad guy, very ambitious and a bit manipulative, but ultimately, in the environment he had where he was able to thrive, it kind of tainted him. And it was kind of sad to see how that destroyed their friendship over the course of the book.
Yeah, I mean, but we've seen how the Empire poisons relatively benign people. Governor Price, for one, Linda Price, was a keen example because she wasn't evil to start out, but when she figured out how the Empire works and wanted more, which is very typical for most people, she took advantage and she became evil, just like Krennic did. And I think you really see the hard turn of Krennic in this book, but I genuinely think Krennic probably would have thought of Galen as a friend. And there was even a part, it's no surprise, but Galen and Lyra and Jyn escape at the end of the book. And that's when we find them in hiding when we get to Rogue One. But he kind of like yells out Galen's name. He's kind of like, Galen. And the thing is like, I actually don't think that Krennic really wanted him to leave. I think he genuinely wanted them to work together, but Krennic's so controlling and probably mildly psychotic that it always has to be on his terms. But I do truly think that he really counted Galen as a friend, as weird as it sounds.
Yeah, and ironically enough, I think that if he could have forged a better relationship with Lyra, he could have potentially even kind of turned them over to the Empire, because Galen, by the end of this book, has kind of lost himself in his research, and his moral compass has kind of really gone askew. And Lyra is really the only thing that brings him back. And part of the reason she's able to do that is Orson kind of showing his hand by, treating her poorly, trying to get rid of her at all times. And it really is, it does show the side of Orson where he's really, really childish, because he looks at Galen as like, maybe one of his only friends, and he's so protective that he looks at his partner as a threat instead of, potentially being like a sister to him.
Yep.
And he kind of sowed the seeds of his own failure in the way he treated Lyra.
Yeah, agreed. I think, I would also say that one of the turning points, yes, Lyra, a huge part, but I also think Jin is as well was a big turner for him too. And I don't know, man, it's very difficult. It's very difficult when you really look at your family and what you're doing is affecting them to that extent, and you're not paying attention. You're seeing that you're missing things, and that can be a very, very big motivator to get you turned back to another path, and eventually it does. But
I would say that Galen's character arc is probably one of the most fleshed out we've seen for a very, very long time in Star Wars, and I'm really interested to rewatch Rogue One after reading this, because I feel like I'll get a much better view of him as a person, and it'll probably be a little more tragic to see how many people condemn him for his actions,
right,
when ultimately you could argue that he was a bit naive and too trusting. Obviously you could, but they also kind of explain that in his mentality. He's very one-track minded. He's
an academic.
Focused on logic. He's an academic. He doesn't understand really the concept of betrayal, and he's very fiercely loyal to the people around him. Yep. And he just, throughout the book, he keeps saying, I don't see how Orson could do that after what he's done for us. He's very loyal to the people around him, and probably one of the most interesting characters we've gotten in the past 6-7 years in Star Wars.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it as well. It was just kind of a weird breath of fresh air, I think, for me, all around. Now, once we leave Vault, we do bring back to Coruscant. There's a lot of planet hopping, but essentially Krennic is in the process of building the Death Star that was envisioned by the Geonosians. And we have, was it Poggle?
Who just completely... Poggle's interesting. He just screws Orson over so perfectly.
Yeah, the one thing, though, we do know that, basically Vader takes out the Separatist, generals and everything. But yeah, Poggle, basically, he makes a deal. Hey, you can use my drones, my people, to build your parts of the Death Star. Give us work. And I kind of wonder if Orson would have given them more critical stuff to do if Poggle would have went back to the Separatists. But I don't know.
Yeah, they definitely open up a lot of lore for the Geonosian people that I don't know if I necessarily wanted, but I did actually appreciate. They have an interesting culture, very barbaric and simplistic, but it was kind of cool to see everything kind of devolve into chaos thanks to Poggle and just how the species is. But yeah, that's a good point. I feel like if they had a little bit more intense work to do, they probably would have stuck with the Republic, because ultimately they just see the Separatists as a better outlet for their aggression, I think, than the Republic.
Absolutely. But, so we do kind of get, we see more of what Tarkin kind of points out in Rogue One, it's like Krennic, for as smart as he is, he doesn't always make the best moves. And the thing is that he had a lot of failures along the way. And it really does open up that, yeah, Tarkin's totally going to bend you over backwards because for as clever as you think you are, you mess up a lot. Like,
yeah, and Tarkin doesn't get lucky. Tarkin forges his own path to earn every victory he gets.
Which is why I actually really like, and I like Tarkin, and we need to read the Tarkin book at some point.
Absolutely.
I definitely want to get that in. I've wanted to for a while because, like, Will of Tarkin is an enigmatic character in a lot of ways. Because even in this book, do you remember the part where, I don't remember if I think he's called by like that woman who's like something important, and it's like, oh, we'll have dinner next time. It's like, Tarkin, you dog.
Yeah.
You got a little girlfriend out there. Because it's almost unimaginable to think that Tarkin would
waste time with something like that.
Well, not just waste time, but anybody would want to get close to Tarkin, or he would let anybody get close to him. It's kind of crazy.
We already know that he has a son, and that has a pretty big impact on his loyalty to the Empire.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is kind of weird. It's kind of like the whole commentary behind why would anyone want to get with Palpatine to have a kid kind of thing, when we were thinking that he actually has his own lineage.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Tarkin's always been one of the most intriguing, mysterious characters in all of Star Wars. I mean, he is, for all intents and purposes, the big baddie of A New Hope, because he is literally the only person that Vader will take commands from without choking out. So that alone, just the sheer fear and veracity of Vader and what he inspires in his people, the fact that Tarkin is able to control that just kind of lends to his character.
Yeah.
And obviously through this and quite a few other books, we get kind of a glimpse into their relationship, how it's kind of a back and forth. At one moment, Tarkin's leading, in another, Vader is. They both kind of hate each other, but respect each other in a way and understand that they need each other to survive and to succeed.
Well, and we also see his irreverence towards Mas Amedda, because like he was like, give me troops, give me reinforcements, and it's like, are you talking to me like this? Yeah, by God, and you're gonna do it. It's
of course, looking back, Mas Amedda would realize how stupid he is to mess with him, but then again, Orson would as well, seeing where Tarkin ends up.
Well, with Krennic, it's a level of arrogance that's pretty unparalleled. Like he is just an arrogant guy, and he's one of those people who, he goes through gifted programs, but he's not actually that gifted. He
manipulates the gifted.
Yeah, he's manipulative. But you do have to give him some props.
Yeah.
Excuse me. You have to give him some props because he does continue to raise throughout his career. We even see the elevation from lieutenant commander to full commander, and then eventually he'll be director, Krennic, once we get into Rogue One. But you just see how it all falls apart for him, though. You see how easy it is for Tarkin to eventually come through and pick him apart. But the thing about Tarkin is he's also still out there with his ship. He's still out there fighting battles. He's still clearing out, any insurgency and so forth. So he's like busy. He's like doing things. He's not just sitting around. So anyway.
Yeah, speaking of like our insurgencies and everything, they really do time jumps well in this book, I feel like, because they are almost seamless to the point where you get a lot further along than you probably should before you realize, oh, this has been like a year or two. I feel like
I know
the most obvious things that point that out are like when Tarkin talks about his campaigns, or like the fact that Jyn is now older.
Yeah.
And before you get one of those two indicators, you don't realize that, 5 years had passed almost.
I know. Yeah, that's one of the things that I really did enjoy about this book is just the seamless way that they transition time. Because I mean, we literally have a young Jyn Erso, and then all of a sudden she's like talking and stuff, and like she's like, the kid in Rogue One who I don't remember how old she was supposed to be at that time.
I think she was probably around 7 or 8.
Yeah, probably. It's like a lot. It's a lot of time has passed, and she's asking everybody, "Hey, do you want to see what's in my backpack?" To, oh yeah, Uncle Saul's pretty cool guy. And that's another thing I appreciated. At the very end, they had a chapter from Jyn's perspective. I really liked that part.
Yeah. The way that she perceives everything going on, just the simplicity of it's like, Mommy likes this person, so I like them. Or I lost all my toys because of the Empire. I was just waiting for her to be like, so the Empire's bad.
Yeah. I hate the Empire. One day I'm going to go and mess them up. It was a really, really nice touch there. But anyway, so indirectly, Galen Erso is being used by Krennic to further the Death Star program, but under the guise that he's working on effectively an energy program for everyone, which is something that, and this was kind of another weird thing with Krennic, is that Galen comes to him and says, look, hey, I have a project. We could just like build a massive power station that everybody can use. Do you want to do it? And for a split second, Orson Krennic was thinking about it. He could leave the Empire. He could leave the ambition behind, and he could just, him and his friend, and this is why I say his friend Galen Erso, is because he considered it. I think he really did consider this. He obviously doesn't go for it. His training, they said this in the book, his training snaps back. But he was considering it. He was going to potentially do it. It would have been interesting if he did.
It really makes you wonder how different things could have played out, because, I mean, they make it very clear through this book, and Rogue One for that matter, there is no Death Star without Galen. Yes. Realistically, no one was going to figure this out. Not even his mentor could have come close to figuring out what he did. And his mentor is another amazing character, too. I really like the dynamic, even though we don't see a lot of her. I can't think of her name off the top of my head. I have her.
I was just trying. Reva Demesny, something like that. She's a Mirialan.
Yeah. Yeah, very interesting dynamic.
Did I say Mira? It's Reva.
No, you said Reva.
Okay. I feel like for some reason...
I was trying to figure out if you were referring to her name or her species.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you said Reva, and
Reva,
she's a Mirialan.
who's a Mirialan. Yeah, I'm tired. I might also have like a very
what was
very, very
the
minor
last name?
cold.
I thought they pronounced it like Domain or something.
Well, it's Demesne, so I would say Demesny.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be an odd silent S, so yeah. Maybe I was just thinking of that wrong. But yeah, really cool character. I love the how comfortable her and Lyra are with each other.
Yeah.
Through their bond with Galen. She goes to her multiple times to try and figure things out. The only thing that's kind of disappointing is that we don't actually get, and I feel like it maybe might have been cut out of the book, but, kind of a really good discussion with Galen and Reva about what's going on, like, after the revelation of what he had done. I feel like that could have been a really cool character to try and console him for his actions. Because she does essentially replace his mother, who passes away when he's very young, along with his father a year and a half later, I believe, which actually really, the way they explained that and how it affected his outlook on life was really good.
Yeah.
Just everything that they did to build the character of Galen was done very well.
It really was. I would say that for as much as they did for Galen, I'm not really sure how much they really did for Lyra, though. I mean, they kind of
Lyra
explained a little
almost-
bit about her, but not as much.
Lyra kind of is. She almost fell into the category of that one-note character Disney was kind of making, that, especially with her reverence towards the Force, which I'm not knocking it, but
Yeah.
I feel like they've really been pushing this Force as more of a religion thing
Yes.
since Disney took over, which is fine. I mean, obviously we have quite a few characters that believe in the Force. Obviously, it's not something you can really argue with in this galaxy.
Yep.
We have who is Luke's friend who helps him do a lot of research, who runs the Temple of the Living Force or whatever it's called. He's killed off by Kylo at the beginning of
Oh, you're talking about
Force Awakens.
yeah, that, yeah.
The dude from that one family that we hate.
Yeah, the navigators. Oh boy.
Kind of hard to even think about how to research him other than just the guy that Kylo kills at the beginning of that movie.
I'm
I'm
Lor
drawing a blank on
Santeca.
even the last name. Lor Santeca.
Yeah, Lor Santeca.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, we have characters that are done well, that have a reverence towards the Force without the ability to use it, but I feel like it kind of enveloped too much of what she was as a character, who she was as a character.
Fair.
They tried to dial that back a little bit with just her interest in nature in general, and I feel like when they did the flashback of her first 6 months of knowing Galen and kind of explaining how the relationship blossomed, that really did a lot to flesh out the character, but they certainly could have given her another chapter or two, I think.
I think so. Yeah, I think you're right on that accord, 100%. Man, yeah. Well, let's continue a little bit with the story. So Galen is occupied. Lyra, excuse me. Lyra, yes, see, I'm already messing it up. So Lyra is going out sort of on her own little adventure, really at Orson Krennic's sort of request, which I think was sort of funny. And she, by the way, we haven't even talked about the character yet. Haas,
Yeah.
Obit, who is one of our ET species, the Dracelians.
Yeah. I like Haas. He's a cool character.
Well, Haas is interesting. He's he helps Saw Gerrera in the Salient system. He initially was just a smuggler that Krennic kind of plucked from the ether and didn't want to be a part of it, and kind of worked for Krennic, and then eventually kind of in a way tries to fight back, I suppose. And he is captured by Tarkin when Tarkin launches an attack on the Salient system, and is able to sort of be like a triple agent, like
a fake double agent of sorts.
It's
I don't know
kind
if
of,
you'd even call him a triple agent because he's not really helping the rebellion anymore, but he's not hurting the rebellion, I suppose. So.
correct. Yeah, he's not really hurting it, but he's not working for Tarkin. He's feeding false information, and actually through him is how Galen, Lyra, and Jyn, through Saw Gerrera, get off the planet. Which is
you really
great.
could argue that without him, we don't have Jyn being able to deliver the plans, and we have A New Hope at that point. So very pivotal character, very reluctant character, almost like Han Solo on steroids in a way, with a lesser part to play.
Yeah, that's actually a really good analogy. He is kind of like a Han, just not quite as dapper, so to speak.
Yeah.
But yeah, he
didn't
is.
have a woman to fall in love with to help.
Oh man, he didn't have
he gets
a woman.
He gets his waitress.
But see, that's that's the thing at the end.
I kind of like his ending.
I like that. It's cheesy as hell, but he's like,
Yeah.
You want to get out of here, darling?
I thought you'd never ask.
I thought you'd never ask.
And then and then they walked off into the moonlight to find new horizons until Tarkin realized that he was lying and then probably killed him. Because he can find him easily.
It's like, I will find you and I will kill you.
I wonder if he was just hiding off on the same planet, like maybe an acre or two down the way from Galen in Rogue One. Just like, hey, I'm going to hide here too, guys.
Yeah. Oh, here's a little tidbit thing just from Wikipedia. Jen Erso later has a toy doll named Lucky Has Oblobit. So she sort of mispronounces the name as a kid. So she has a little has toy. That's fun.
Is that one of the things she's referring to when she says that she lost all her toys?
Yeah, that might
be. Or is it
be
something from Rogue One? Did she have a toy with her in Rogue One? I think she does.
Gosh, I don't know.
That'd be hilarious. That'd be pretty cool if that was what the toy was.
We'll have to keep an eye out for that. I like the character. I like the arc. I thought it was a lot of fun. Yeah. I don't know, man. I mean, what else do we have to talk about here? Because we've got the research. We have Krennic kind of turning. We've got Haas turning. We've got Tarkin doing Tarkin stuff. We've got Galen and family getting away at the end of the book, going to the planet that they eventually settle in, and kind of the cute little Jin chapter. So, is there anything else we need to particularly talk about at this point?
No, I mean, I think we kind of hit on all the major points in the book.
Okay. Well, then, how about we go ahead and just get to ratings? You want to go ahead and give it a rating and a reason why?
Yeah, so I'll give the reason why first, just change it up a little bit. This has been, not that this is the reason, really, but just a little extra. This has been the first really, really good book we have reviewed in an extremely long time, save for New Jedi Order stuff. And I'm not trying to be negative, but it has been a long time since a book has gripped me this much. I listened to it twice, and I wasn't dreading the second time listening to it. It makes me want to watch Rogue One as soon as we get done with the podcast. It makes me want to do it just because I know I'm going to look at all these characters so differently now. Even Saw Gerrera, which we kind of have a bit of a love-hate relationship with. I mean, he's really interesting in Rogue One, but they don't do a great job throughout Star Wars of depicting him as a character, other than just little one-off scenes in Clone Wars and whatnot. But the way they developed some lesser-known characters in this book was extremely well done, especially with Galen and Orson. You really get a deep dive into their psyche and why they made the decisions they made. You get a really great character profile on both Mas Amedda and Tarkin in this book, which the more Tarkin, the better. I don't really think anything really ruins Tarkin. I can't think of any media that's portrayed him poorly, but I think that they excel in this book in portraying him as the badass that he really is. Mm-hmm. Almost like an unsung hero in a way in the book. It's really weird because he's not set up to be evil. It's well, he's kind of fighting the guy who's clearly evil in this book, so I like him more as a person from a morality standpoint.
Yeah.
We have a really good look into the brainwashing of the Imperial people, how closed off they are. It almost kind of seems like a 50s vibe where literally the only way you'd get any information is through news media outlets because, age before the internet, we can't just look up a random iPhone video in the wrong orientation exposing the Empire for their evil misdeeds. I mean, can't really even think of any negative points in this book. I just loved it from start to finish. So I'm probably going to rate this way too high, but I've been so negative lately that I don't really care. I'm going to rate this at a 4.8 out of 5.
Oh my God. Stoneham. Stoneham.
Yeah, I just really can't think of anything that knocks it down, to be honest, other than, we had mentioned Lyra being a little underdeveloped, but I'm still okay with it, to be honest.
Okay. Well, I think that's all fair. Goodreads, out of 16,551 ratings, 3.74.
Wow.
A lot of 3-star reviews here that I'm seeing. A lot of 3s and 4s. And it really feels like a lot of these are, I suppose, more like I watched Rogue One, I wanted more, but I didn't really quite want this. It's like they're coming off the high of Rogue One.
I read a prequel and didn't enjoy the fact that it was a prequel.
Yeah, and like I'm just running through comments. Like this guy points out, I think it does help show the relationship between Krennic and Galen and Krennic and Tarkin. I think that's great. Where he goes wrong is he thinks Lyra is a highlight. It's like, I like Lyra. She just wasn't as big. I don't know. It's
so legitimate reviews. Just they wanted something different, essentially.
I think this
not like a bunch of stupid nonsense.
Yeah, so this guy gave it a 3-star, but wound up coming back and heavily editing his comment, but apparently couldn't edit his stars because, like, he writes a freaking book. There was a 1-star. Ooh, 1-star. Author makes a fatal mistake from that he assumes we know his characters already and are invested in their struggle. Well, no, you wouldn't. This is where you get invested in it.
No, that would be more. You could argue that more of Rogue One. You could this.
Well, yeah, this is where you lay the groundwork. I don't know, it's funny. Wasn't quite what I thought it would be.
They literally go back and forth and explain every bit of Galen's life at some point. Like everything.
So this comment says it wasn't the action-packed saga that we're all used to with Star Wars books. It's like, what?
There are a lot of non-action packed Star Wars
this
books.
person hasn't seen Rogue One yet. I feel like a lot of the people that did this hadn't watched Rogue One yet, and I don't know why that would change your opinion, or maybe it would. I don't know, but we've seen Rogue One. We like Rogue One. So anyway, Amazon's significantly higher, 4.5 out of 5 out of almost 2,000 ratings. So here's what I'll say about Catalyst. Yeah, we've been terribly negative about our reviews lately because a lot of the stuff we've been reading hasn't been overly great. More trying to prove a point than actually tell a story, which is very difficult for me because I want to hear a story. I highly enjoyed this book. I highly enjoyed everything about it because it really made me care more about the characters that were in it, including Galen, who, has a fantastic actor playing Galen, and I can't, that is a big win. But, and even Jonathan Davis, by the way, who is the one who read the book, who I do like, I wish we'd see a little bit more of now. He did a lot and then kind of dropped off, but I'd like to see more. But he did a great job of pulling that inflection, that vocal inflection that we got.
Yeah, especially with Krennic.
Yes, I think he did a great job. And the audiobook, I think, definitely does do a service to the physical book. But I really had a really fantastic time listening to the book and just going through this story about these characters that I have that I kind of wanted to know more about. And I think it laid a great story out. I don't think I need more. I don't feel like I need more. I think that it was paced fine. I don't really have much, if anything, to complain about aside from, like we both said, the obvious fact that we kind of wish that Lyra were fleshed out a little bit more. I mean, she was cool, but it's just like, I don't think that I got the emotional attachment that I did with the other characters, and that just is what it is. But I had a good time with the book. I don't know if I'm really ready to go 7.8 necessarily, or a 7.8, a 4.8. Excuse me. You made that mistake last week, so I've got to make it this week. So
I would hope you could at least give it a 7.8 out of 10.
Yeah, I would hope so too. So I'm going to go ahead and rate this a 4.6 out of 5, and I'll be pretty happy with that. So overall, good book. And well,
one more thing to throw out before we leave. Did you notice how easily this book could have been a grandstand on why you shouldn't choose a side in a war? How easily we could have gotten thrown into that kind of story.
Yes.
I just want to point out that that's one of the things that makes me appreciate the book more, because we didn't get the political grandstand.
Yeah, and Star Wars can be very political, but yeah, it wasn't in that vein. It wasn't in that vein at all. So yeah, I agree. That's a good launcher there. So all right, well, folks, hopefully you enjoyed the episode here, and hopefully you read this book. If you haven't, read the book and then come back and listen, or listen and then read the book, or I don't know, do whatever the hell you want. It's fine. I'm not here to tell you what to do. But what you should be doing is making sure you follow us on Twitter and Facebook at TC Plan Podcast. Make sure to interact there. You can even just send us an email with any of your thoughts on episodes or things coming up to tcplanpodcast@gmail.com. We would actually like hearing from you. But I think that is it from us. So y'all have a good rest of your week.
And as always, may the Force be with you.